r/AskReddit. What is your fake it till you make it story? I'd always been interested in programming. As a kid I tried to teach myself C and Java with mild success. Fast forward to the time I'm 24. I'm working as a piercing apprentice at a tattoo shop making $20 a day a few days per week. I meet a girl, fall for said girl, girl ends up pregnant. A few hours after the pregnancy test I'm applying for jobs on Craigslist and I find a PHP job a few minutes up the road. I've worked with PHP for maybe a few hours in my entire lifetime, but it was a tiny company and the interview wasn't technical. I lied through my teeth the entire time and get hired. After being hired I tried to start learning PHP on the job. The owner of the company created his own PHP framework which was god awful, so I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. I got fired 2 weeks later. In those 2 weeks on the job I made an honest effort to learn more about web design and development, so I offered my design services to a local web design company for free so that I could learn. Walking home after being fired I called up the web design company and they ended up hiring me. I would learn on the job for a year or so and then take my skills to get more money somewhere else. 10 years later I'm the lead software engineer on a big project making just over 6 figures. If a pregnancy test hadn't scared me to death that day I would still be working dead-end jobs to scrape up enough money for weed and booze. I started at a big ol' multinational in retail as a college dropout. I started at the lowest rung of customer service in a store. Now retail has lots and lots of staff turnover, and a multinational has a shitton of rules, or you'd expect them to have. Also, I'm not the dumbest around. Never mind the college dropout, that's another story. And well, to be fair, not everyone in retail is super smart. So there was a consistent lack of management, or they didn't care, and all the rules and regulations had gaps in them. So people start asking questions. How do I solve this? What should I do next? Etc. Nobody had an answer to these questions, so I started answering them using common sense or what I'd think should work. Just filling the gaps, which probably made me look a lot smarter than I am. Just faking that I knew what I was doing. So I started climbing the ladders and I'm now the senior finance and operations director for a store with a gross turnover of over 160 million euro. However, cracks are starting to show. The company got a lot more serious, and I'm surrounded by smart people with high degrees, where I can't bluff my way through problems and meetings as easily. So, I'm thinking of taking a step back and relaxing a bit more on lower position. I was a lot happier then, and had way less stress and way less hours. A while ago I decided to stop complaining about environmental destruction, climate change, etc. and act. So I started planting trees. Keep in mind I had no training in this. I never even gardened before. I considered myself a brown thumb. I researched how to do it, and it seemed pretty easy, but everything died. I'd plant a tree exactly how they said, but it wouldn't survive. I had to baby them so much, just to get them through their first year, and maybe half would make it. But I just kept planting and faking I knew what I was doing. Then I came across stuff by Dr. Elaine Ingham on soil science and it kind of changed everything for me. It made a whole lot of sense. Ecosystems transition from deadland to weedbed to grassland to brushland to forest. As they do, the soil microbiology changes from dead soil to bacterial dominated soil to fungal dominated soil. So the correct way to plant trees is actually to transition the soil to forest soil as fast as possible. Nature takes thousands of years of weeds dying, and then grasses dying, and soil life building and building, to a small woody shrub, which then eventually dies, and now it changes. Now everything changes. Woody material on the ground means fungus can move in. It's game over at this point, and you will transition to a forest now. So the correct way to plant a tree is to speed yourself to this point by dropping wood chips on the ground and letting the soil chemistry change. After a few months, or even better, a year, now plant your trees into the environment they want to live in. Well, that changed everything, and now I go around planting mini starting forests everywhere on my land, in wild places, abandoned lots, etc. I've seen little pockets of life I've planted turn from a few trees to a small thicket. At this point, it's unstoppable and the land heals. It's an incredibly rewarding hobby, but one you must take very seriously. Anytime you plant something, you set in motion wheels of change, so you must know what you are planting. For this reason I stick to local native trees, shrubs, herbs, flowers, things that exist all around me. That's good for many reasons, the least of which isn't free genetic material, seeds, to make this hobby 100% free. What is really rewarding though is driving to work and seeing a bird perched on an apple tree that I planted in a cluster of life with bees buzzing around the apple, haskap and lovage and borage and strawberries and asparagus, clover, fruit tree guild. Looking and seeing apple saplings bursting up through the sweet sicely. The ecosystem has its foothold in now and will replicate itself, sequestering carbon and healing the soil long after I'm gone. So I started as someone who considered themselves a brown thumb, and with a little action and knowledge seeking, I now have pockets of life all around my community that are expanding and growing, that I was the catalyst for creating. That's a legacy right there. And that's how we reverse climate change and give our children a world worth living in. Well, when I was 16 I managed to fake being sick well enough to fool a doctor. It was end of the year, finals week. I had failed 3 classes and was at risk of failing philosophy too. Day of the exam arrives. I wake up late and start to panic as I run to school. I'm already making up a story about how I woke up feeling sick, the usual stuff. They say I can only do the exam if I show up with a doctor's note on the same day. Instead of panicking even harder, I don't even go home and instead walk straight to a kind of mini hospital. I don't know what to call it in English, sorry, close to home. I get there after 1h of walking and find out I can only see a doctor for free if I have a partner card, which I didn't have. After another 2 hours to get home, getting the documents, and making a partner card, I wait another 1h in line to get to see a doctor. When my turn arrived, I had already crafted what I thought was a master level narrative of how I woke up with explosive diarrhea, possibly from eating at a shitty burger place the night before, as it's not so easy to verify and is mild enough that I didn't have to appear like I was dying for her to believe me. It wasn't hard to fake a sick looking face. I'm very scrawny and hadn't eaten all day at that point. She even measured my blood pressure and confirmed it was awfully low. In the end, she gave me the note, prescribed some medicine, and I did the exam 2 days later. Passed all the other classes as well. Still one of my proudest moments. I enlisted in the army in my late 20s, and after a couple of deployments to Iraq in my 30s I decided to make the army my career. I wasn't particularly gung-ho, I know that's the Marines, but a lot of people wouldn't get it if I said I wasn't too apt, but I liked being in the army, and I liked the people I worked with, and people liked to work with me. Eventually I got wounded, and it was one of those Forrest Gump type things, where I was discharged, but not really messed up. So here I was in my mid-30s with no real civilian work experience, going out into the real world at the exact same moment that the economy took a nosedive. I ended up using the GI Bill to go to college, and thanks to a couple of semesters of community college I took before enlisting and taking a full load of classes every semester, including a full load in the summers, I managed to get my BS in Information Science and Technology with a minor in business in 3 years. After school I hustled my ass off and took one temp job after another so I could get some experience working in corporate environments. Somehow, and I'm not sure exactly how it went down, I managed to land 1-year contracts with companies that pretty much everyone has heard of. I started out doing basic data entry, which then lead to data analysis, which eventually lead me to my career in payroll processing. All of this from some high school dropout Gen X slacker who spent most of his 20s working dead-end jobs, singing in a punk band, and smoking weed every day. When I went to college after the army I had no idea how to do shit with computers. Like I could surf the internet and play video games, but that was it. And not counting the army, my most impressive job title was assistant third shift stock manager at a grocery store. I managed to fake it until I made it to the point that now companies are calling me to lure me away from my current gig so I can head up their payroll department. I took on an entry job as a sysadmin after working as a technical writer for 8 years. I only knew Windows from an end user perspective, and I'd only dabbled in GUI Linux, never the command line. I admitted all of this in my interview, but I must have gotten the message across that I was eager to learn and take on the challenge, so they hired me. My buddy was also a senior sysadmin in the group and took a chance on vouching for me, even though he knew I knew nothing. I was offered a bottom of the drawer salary for a sysadmin, but a 20% increase over my job as a senior technical writer because nobody RTFM, so no one values the technical writer's work, and just thrown to the wolves in an environment with a small Windows server base, some ancient physicals, like A2 beasties, running HPUX 11, and a moderate VM infrastructure, satellite, with RHEL 5 and 6 servers. An aging sysadmin took me under his wing and showed me around the command line and the basics of V, and I was enrolled in a RHEL 6 remote/online class immediately after orientation. A bunch of it didn't really make sense because I had almost no background, but I studied the materials like crazy and kept up. That aging sysadmin was walked out the door a couple of months later due to his expressly stated refusal to learn the new stuff, but I'm still thankful to him for getting me started. Anyway, for the 3 years I worked there, I just immersed myself in the work and learned as quickly as I could, including enrolling in and completing a master's in it program focused on ITSM, as moving into MGMT was a long-term goal. The tipping point at that workplace came when our manager decided to step down to a senior sysadmin position, and a coworker who I liked a lot, but who was completely unsuited personality-wise for management, complete stress puppy with zero cool under pressure, and a heavy drinker, was slotted into the MGMT position. He did his best, and I still liked him for the most part, but it was hard to work under him. The other members of the team had zero respect for him, at least one of whom should have been considered for the position before him. From my perspective, I now knew enough about MGMT to be dangerous. That is, I had lots of book learning, but no practical experience that would have made me a good candidate, and saw nothing but flaws in how he tried to manage the team. Everyone on our team had a monthly sit down with the boss, and at one of these, boss asked me honestly how I thought manager was doing. I was honest, saying I felt he was struggling with the decision making and getting buy-in from the team on projects and other MGMT decisions from the team, and that I thought he could use some MGMT training if it was in the budget. I must not have been the only one to express concern, because very shortly thereafter, manager was shipped off to an off-site MGMT boot camp for 2 weeks. He was definitely improved after that, but I was starting to dislike the rest of my team for how they were acting now they felt they had a manager they could walk all over, so I updated my resume and applied for a few new gigs in town. When I landed one, along with a healthy salary increase, boss called me in and offered me a $5k salary increase. Far shy of new job salary, though, and a team lead position. Basically, I'd be helping still bungling manager with his job, as our team really wasn't large enough to need team leads. I thanked him but declined, saying I was eager to try out the opportunity at the new company, much larger, bigger at budget, better ITSM, etc., but was very grateful for the opportunity to start my career and learn the ropes of system administration with them. He said I was welcome back anytime, not sure if he meant that, but it felt genuine at the time, and wished me luck. Manager didn't take it as well, as I think he was counting on having someone on the team who was empowered to help him out. He drank himself into a stupor at my so long and thanks happy hour on my last day of work. At any rate, I consider myself very lucky that I was given the opportunity to make a dramatic career switch in my 30s, but I had to bust serious ass for those first few years to try and catch up to my colleagues with many more years of experience. I'm up for promotion to senior either this year or next, and while I sometimes feel like an imposter when I talk to people my same age with 10 plus years more experience than I have, overall I think I'm doing pretty good. Now I gotta cut this story off and get back to it. Honestly, university overall. I went to one of the more difficulty and kinda prestigious universities of Hungary, but man, I was really not like a hard-working student. On the other hand, I was confident and I was good when it came to having relationships/friendships. Don't get me wrong, you are going to have to study and you are going to have sleepless nights, even if you schedule everything from the very first minute and shit. But being confident is the fucking key, I'm telling you. Confidence with the knowledge you have. Confident to walk into exams, classes. Confident to speak up. Obviously you cannot say any stupid shit. Be creative, make friends, be kind to professors. A little cockiness never hurts. If you can perfectly balance cockiness, confidence, and kindness, you are going to be saved from a lot of stress. This one time at uni I had an exam in a subject that is slightly related to literature, which I had very little interest in. My study method usually consists of me sleeping through the afternoon the day before the exam, and waking up like 3 to 4 in the morning to revise everything, or as much possible. I wake up, I do the usual method and head to uni to my exam. There were 18 topics and the last was Ben Jonson, who I had honestly no clue about, so I was like, well, having literally zero knowledge on one topic cannot hurt. What are the odds? I stepped to the table and yeah, you guessed that right, Ben fucking Jonson. Fuck my life, honestly. The professor was notorious for how strict and distant he was. In addition, I've never even had a class with him before. Means no chance to having impressed him once in my life, so can chill for the rest of the semester. As he is handing me a blank paper where I should supposedly evaluate, all I could think of was, we could have honestly saved this tree, professor. It was at end of spring, beautiful weather, next to us a kindergarten, listening to the laughing and chit-chatting of the children, the birds singing along as the sun shines through the windows, giving me that nice and warm feeling on my neck, you know? I swear I have not thought a second of Ben Jonson. I was thinking about the lunch I'm going to have at my favorite burger place right after the exam, was thinking about the sauce I'm gonna choose, and about the pretty girl who always tries to chat up with me when I'm there. I get called out as the next one to have the oral exam finally, bringing my almost blank paper with 2 words written in the top right corner, my name. The professor literally goes like, well, that is a promising one. Honestly, I could not even be sad. I just kinda low-key laughed. So basically the only thing I know about him is that he was Shakespeare contemporary, which was the only subject related sentence I said during the whole exam. After this, we somehow shifted the conversation towards the previous day's Champions League game. We discussed favorite beers as well as how every chick at the university adores the prof. He is pretty fit, to be fair. After having said literally one sentence regarding the topic subject, I got a 4, and he finished our exam with something between the following words: Daniel, you are obviously not dumb. Next we meet, would you be so kind to at least read the topic once, so I can give a 5. Highest mark goes from 1 to 5. I moved to a new city/state days out of college, knowing noon. Spent 2 weeks looking for work and a place to live, while living off of a gas credit card for food and, surprisingly, lodging. Couldn't find a job without a place to live, and no place to live without a job. Ran out of limit on the card and out of money, so I decided to tuck tail back home. The night before I left, I decided to splurge and visit a nudie bar for the first time in my life. Being from a small town, these were very new to me. I spent my last $10 to get into the nudie bar and sat down to enjoy my last night in the new town, when all of a sudden the server comes over and proceeds to ask what I wanted to drink and inform me that there was a 2-drink minimum. Whoops, had no idea and was out of money. But instead of excusing myself like any sane person would do, I decide to milk it and simply tell her that I was there applying for a job. The skeptical look on her face, followed by the logical question, is what, a dancer? Led me to further my tangled web. As a DJ, I said with confidence, seeing no other men in the building other than security, and was in no way big enough for that, which led her to walk away. Woo. Finally booby time. Nope. A minute later my server returns with a rather large fellow in tow who introduced himself as the manager, who also informs me of their current need for a DJ. Why? He says that he would need to hear me on the microphone before he made a decision, but I could start the next day. So, you want to hear me? Now, I found myself in a strip club DJ booth doing the worst impression of the DJ that was working when I walked in. For the 8 minutes I heard him doing the job well, I ended up getting the job, started the next day, and he, the manager, even helped me find an apartment by lying to a complex saying I had worked at the club for 6 months. That business is a cash business mostly, so after each day I would walk with cash in hand and basically learned the job as I went along. Stayed in that job for 6 months, was able to get established in the new city and start an odd career that I never knew about. After 6 months at the nudie bar gig, I ended up fibbing my way into a bar DJ gig, which helped me learn a new set of skills that lead to a nightclub DJ gig. Flash forward to now. I have been named one of the top 3 DJs in Nashville TN for the 2nd year in a row, and several producer and DJ national awards later, I have a career and a company. All because I wanted to see boobies before I went home to mama. Not really fake it till you make it, but for year 11th I went to a new school and only had one friend from my previous school with me. At around halfway through the first semester I was bet by my friend to walk up to these 2 girls, who we became friends with, me closer to them than him, and come out to them as gay when it was just me and the girls. I'm straight, but I love bets and I'm quite good at lying. I barely consider them friends, but I was still closer to them than my friend, so I was the one that was gonna do it. BTW, they're both gay, so that's why they were chosen specifically. No, they weren't going out, they were just friends, they had literally zero interest in one another that way. Anyway, so I do it the next day, and after about 5 minutes of convincing and 15 minutes of shock, they started comforting me. They started hugging me cause I started to tear up, but that was cause it was fucking windy and I got dust in my eyes, though I'm glad it happened cause I reckon it made me more believable. Lol. The bet was for $200, but they had to think I was gay until we graduated. Easy enough, as it's actually the easiest fucking thing in the world to fake being gay. I literally just acted the same because I figured being gay wouldn't change the way I acted, and I actually had a lot of fun doing it. I loved it when someone said something homophobic and the girls were around, because I'd laugh and agree with the comment, then just look at the girls, because 100% of the time they'd be looking at me wondering how I react to the comment and check if I was okay. Remember that they're the only ones who think I'm gay. Anyway, I'm gonna speed this up a bit cause I don't want to bore everyone who reads this. So from then to graduation I ended up becoming extremely close with these girls and considered them my best friends along with my OG friend. The plan was that I'd just tell them I wasn't gay at the end of graduation, but now I think I'd rather fight God himself than admit to it. I feel like it would ruin any and all trust I have with them, and I don't want to lose them. OG friend says that he'll play along with whatever I want and said it doesn't matter to me what you choose, dude. I'm gonna end up being you're stuck with you either way, which made me feel better. So we graduate, and I just decide to not tell them, but know that I can't keep this up forever, and I'm scared for the day that they find out. Even throughout high school, even though they always tell me whenever they were coming over, I'd always feel anxious whenever I was having sex, because I'd worry that they'd surprise me by suddenly bursting through the door. I was always worried that one day they'd find out and we'd stop being friends cause the whole relationship started on a lie. Anyway, this is long enough. Like I said, not really a fake it till you make it, because I don't see an end to make it to. I won a scholarship in middle school. Full ride to college. It was an essay contest put on by my school district. The topic was something about how we had to overcome adversity. The problem was I didn't write the essay. My mom did. Well, my stepmom. She wrote about how poor my father and I had been, and how I had looked up to my father as a hero and that from him, I'd learned the value of hard work and the meaning of the American dream, or something like that. It was bullshit. I had been poor, really poor, but I was white trash. It wasn't a learning experience, I was just some bumpkin, and my dad was a cunt. She didn't mention herself. I won the contest and was summoned to have my scholarship awarded to me and to meet a mentor who would guide and advise me until I reached college age. My mom and I went over the subject matter of the essay and she helped me prepare responses that my mentor would likely ask me. I met not only my mentor, but other winners of various scholarships of equal or lesser value to my own. People who had actually experienced hardships and had learned enough from them to be driven to succeed at a young age. I also met the man who was funding my scholarship and was apparently so impressive that he decided to be my mentor himself. He started coming to my school once a week to have lunch with me, and again, my mom and I would review topics and prepare phrases, comments, questions I could parrot to make myself appear smarter or more mature for my age. I was a neglected wonder child, an urchin that this generous wealthy man was giving an opportunity. He got me into a good high school that I couldn't have afforded. My mom continued to work on my image by getting me involved in various extracurricular activities in order to bolster my college resume along with my chances of making long-lasting business connections with the rich kids at my school. I saw more and more of my mentor outside of school. He would take me out, buy me things, and reward me for my accomplishments. He wasn't legally allowed to, but he let me stay in his giant house whenever I wanted. He even offered to adopt me, but I refused. My mom told me I was stupid not to, and she was right. I felt like I already had a family, even if this man didn't know about it. Even if my family was abusive and manipulative, it was still mine, and it wasn't this bougie high-class facade. I couldn't fully submit myself to the narrative. He gave me birthday gifts and access to a quality of life I could have never had with my real family. He knew my dad, but my dad was hardly present, and my mom stayed hidden, crafting me into an Ubermensch. I resisted, I protested and proclaimed my distress and pain to her, that I felt like I was being forced down a path, but I never gave up the secret. I let it all happen. I accepted the awards and the grants, I shook the hands, took the pictures. I let my mentor talk me into a good college that I knew far more qualified peers of mine had been turned away from. And the worst part is, I fucked it all up. I got to college, met the other students who were so brilliant and had worked so hard to get here, and all I'd done was know the right people. I didn't deserve to be here. I fell prey to my long-standing depression and anxiety, got addicted to video games, flunked out of classes, turned into a hermit, ruining potential friendships. My mentor came to the college to tell me I was being cut off financially until I could get my shit together. I hadn't even earned all the opportunities I'd been given. I put in time and sweat, but none of it had been my plan. It all fell into my lap, and I just fucking let it fall. I wouldn't be the same person I'm now if my mom hadn't pushed me so hard, if I hadn't gotten to this school. I'm the fuck up and the villain in my own life story. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.